steps and all that. And then the manager leaves the room, and then there's the meeting after the meeting. Well, this is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. I don't know where they come up with this stuff. And now you've got a cohort in the room who was part of the creation of it, and they can fight for the idea. Well, you make a good point. We actually looked at that, and this is why it wasn't feasible and why we decided to go this route. And so your idea, has a champion in the room when you leave the room, because they helped build it, they helped create it, and therefore we'll find ways to help it move forward.
Welcome again to It Doesn't Take a Genius, conversation with introspective perspectives and pithy points of view. Here are your hosts, my friends, Max and Marty.
I think that's Mark and Mike.
Yeah, whatever.
Ramsey!
Marshall, you're looking into the face of somebody who's in cool coaching mode.
Oh, yeah. I can tell by the product in your hair.
All right.
So cool is where you were going for today. I can tell. And not just your approach, but your look.
Oh, well, thank you. It's what's called high hold, low shine, matte finish. My wife basically on our first Valentine's Day together said, "I love you, and here's some hair product." So I've been wearing it ever since. But
are you a fop or are you a Dapper Dan man?
I'm glad you brought that up. I'm actually a Lockhart's man, which is made in Michigan. Locally, very waxy. It's nice, sort of small batch local stuff that my barber turned me onto. Yeah. Anyway,
small batch, single barrel hair.
Single barrel, right?
Yes. Nice,
high proof. Anyway, So, but that's not why I'm in cool coaching mode, Mike. As much as you got me onto that tangent, I'm in cool coaching mode because you told me, "Hey, why don't you interview me in cool coaching mode?" And so I'm going to do that now. And I've got an opening question, Mike. What is the significance of the Ikea background that you have in your backdrop there on the video screen?
Yeah. So for those of us on the podcast, the background screen is an IKEA, store, the large blue store, where you buy everything, and it comes with a helping of frustration. With all their products, and so that's always very exciting. But the genesis of that was a research paper I read from the Harvard Business School, and I have to admit I don't read a lot of research papers from the Harvard Business School, but in this case I needed to get a life, and the title intrigued me. It said when labor leads to love. And I was like, "Ooh, when labor leads to love, right?" So the hook was wonderfully, and so you don't see that in a lot of research papers. They don't have that hook that draws you in.
Yeah.
And what would be the application of this to our world and to the world of leadership, management, coaching, and things like that? And
I can automatically say, labor. We tend to be involved in that in our workplaces that we help with coaching and consulting. And love is also something that we are involved with, the engagement of the employee to, be all in on, what they're doing and their team. So, you have me intrigued already.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, it's one of those things where a tangent of that is a lot of times I will ask a group, all right, show of hands, how many of you highly value your own opinion?
Yeah, right.
Oh, yeah.
Pretty universal on that one.
Yeah. That's like, do you like babies and puppies? Yeah. You get the same answer. And then the next question is, how many of you are opposed to your ideas? Like, no, I love all my ideas. Yeah, yep. My only problem with my ideas is more people aren't paying attention to them.
Yep.
More people aren't adopting them. And so this paper kind of speaks to that. So just to give you a sense of how they write a research paper, I'll read you the abstract. In a series of studies in which consumers assembled IKEA boxes, folded origami, and built sets of Legos, we demonstrate and investigate the boundary conditions for what we term the IKEA effect. Dun, dun, dun. Of both utilitarian and hedonic, is it hedonic or hedonic?
Hedonic, I guess.
Hedonic products, as similar in value to the creation of experts and expected others to share their opinions. Our account suggests that labor leads to increased valuation only when labor results in the successful completion of tasks. Thus, when participants build and then destroy their creations or failed to complete them, the IKEA effect dissipated.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so we'll have to explore that. Finally, we show that labor increases the valuation of completed products, not just for consumers who profess an interest in do-it-yourself projects, but even for those who are relatively uninterested. We discuss the implications of IKEA effect for marketing managers and organizations more generally. Wow, right?
A lot there.
Yeah, you can kind of see how people quit reading. Like at that point, they're like, "How he's talking about?" Yeah, I'm gonna go watch a TikTok video.
Well, I think I get the basic first part there, that if I have some effort that I have to extend on creating whatever it is I'm creating, I'm more invested in it and probably think that it's probably a higher quality than if I just had something handed to me.
Oh yeah, definitely. So yeah, you're definitely on the right track. The first example they used is in the 1950s. They invented instant cake mixes.
Yeah.
And the instant cake mix, unlike the one we have today, when it was first invented, all you had to do was add water. And they found that people didn't like it. Right? They weren't baking it and taking it to the school fundraiser or to the family picnic or whatever. And then when they looked at it, they decided that they had done too much. And so now the current instant cake mixes require you to add an egg, butter, right? And so when they made it less complete and you had to add more ingredients, now you proudly take it to the to the family picnic and go, "Yeah, I baked a cake."
Like, how about that?
Yeah. So they talk about Build-A-Bear, where you pay, a premium for this product, and then you have to supply the manufacturing of the product. And so you select it, you build it, you're instrumental there when it's put together. Those people tend to value those more highly, and they tend to pay a higher premium for those. And then there was another instance where before they got into their previous research, where they talked about, and I'd never heard this term before, haycations. So
going to a farm and working on it, and great.
I never, haycation is, you go to the farm, you're a hired hand, but they know that when you eat the food that you harvested, that food is so much tastier.
And that is true. That is 100% true.
That's
stuff out of your own garden. You're like,
my brain has nothing to do with that. It's actually tastier.
Yeah.
Well, that's what the paper kind of goes into, right?
Fascinating.
So the IKEA effect was when if you bought a very simple IKEA product, just a box, and if you built the box, and so they had people build the box, and then they asked them to assign a bid to it. How much would you pay for this particular item? And then they asked people who hadn't built the box the same question, right? Here's a fully assembled IKEA box. What would you pay for it? And the difference was stunning. The people who assembled the box were willing to pay a whole lot more. They placed so much more valuation on the product than those who hadn't participated in the construction of it. And they even did they said, all right, so maybe there's something to the fact that because they assembled that box, they would be willing to pay more for it. And so they organized the research in such a way that would you give it, buy it and give it to somebody else? Would you pay more money for it? So yeah, because they were like, okay, there could be a bias. I built it, so it's mine, so I want it.
Yeah.
But if you built it and we're going to buy it and give it to somebody else, they still thought it was worth more.
Is that right?
So it didn't have anything that they were able to exclude the variable of I built it, so I have ownership in it, and therefore I want it. No, if I put it together, I saw higher value to it, no matter who was going to be the recipient.
You're making me think about maker spaces. So I don't know if you're familiar with that, but we have one here locally. I have a cousin who's involved in it, and it's basically sort of a workshop studio space where they have equipment, and it could be anything. It could be, it could be sewing machines. It could be welding tools. It could be, wood shop, tools, power machines, things that people maybe wouldn't have at home. I think they have some 3D printers. They have, just all sorts of things where you're making something. And the idea is that you subscribe and help, pay the rent for all these, various tools in the space, and you can come and make things. And it's, I think it's fair to say that it's kind of a hipster concept. But at the same time, it's like they're doing very old things, kind of like the Haycation, right? Like let's go farm, let's get back to nature and make something out of the earth. And this is, I would say this is probably on a cosmic level something that we are hardwired to do. Like J.R.R. Tolkien called it sub-creation. That you're made by a creator. He made you in his image. So guess what? You like creating too, and it's you're hardwired to do it. So there's got to be something innate in us that values, participating in that activity, whatever it is. Whether it's making an IKEA stool, or making a work of art, or dare I say making something in the workplace.
No, I think you're exactly right. And yeah, I love the idea of creation begetting creation.
Right.
That's pretty a neat idea. All right. So put on your coaching hat and ask me something like, all right, so what is the downside of this in the workplace?
Okay. Hold on. Let me think about this. Mike, what are some downsides to this in the workplace?
I'm so glad you asked.
Oh, that's wonderful.
The research talks about that if I'm a manager and I come up with this great idea that in my opinion is a great idea, and and it's not the best idea, or it's not even working, getting me to abandon that idea is incredibly difficult. And we run into this all the time. Right? You're talking with a manager, and they're working on something. You can see it's not going well, and sometimes we even whip out our Dr. Phil. Yeah, so how's that working for you? And they go, not good, but they won't let go of it. Because they created it. It was their process. It was their word track. It was their system. It was their seating arrangement. It was whatever they built.
Right.
Because you always think, well, why is it, we've heard this before, right? The hardest part of change is not getting the good idea, the new idea in, it's getting the old idea out. Well, it becomes immensely more difficult when the old idea was created by the person that's doing it.
Well, and just to let people in on a little coaching lingo, sometimes we talk about telling people their baby is ugly, right? They made a baby, and now it's time to tell them that their baby is ugly. And what's funny is, like, their baby isn't ugly, right? Like their idea logically maybe is a better idea. I came up with this pay plan, and oh my gosh, people will just make so much more money. But they've only thought about it. It's funny, we were just talking about this. They thought about it rationally, but they didn't think about it emotionally. What it was going to do to people. They didn't think about the issue of sort of culture. Like, does this even fit our culture in how we're changing how we do things here? And if you haven't answered those questions, then your baby's pretty ugly, because it's just not going to be adopted. But I think I hear you saying that there's a different way here. We
Oh
could
yeah,
let other people participate
yeah,
in
yeah.
creation.
Oh, definitely. Well, and just one last thing on that. So, as I'm thinking about it, maybe there's an additional coaching question that we need to ask when somebody's resistant to change. We need to ask, so where did the current process come from? What's the origin story of the current process? Well, I came up with that.
That's a great point.
Like, oh
Yeah.
man, okay. So now I've got a better sense of how hard is it going to be to change this.
We have some fellow coaches that I know listen to this, and I hope they double click on what you just said, because I think you've got a great point there. Hey, tell me the landmines, please.
Yeah. This was something that was passed down from corporate, and we adopted it.
Right.
And it's not working. I could probably get you to abandon that and maybe explore at least alternatives. But yeah, if you built that baby from the ground up, it was your brainchild.
I woke up in the middle of the night in a flash of inspiration. Yes. And I sprawled down this process.
I ran down the street naked, yelling "Eureka!" I've discovered the end all be all. So something to think about there. All right, so let's think about the upside of this thing.
Now, but before you go there, I do want to ask you. You mentioned destruction of what you created being problematic. That devalues it. Could you say a little more about that?
Yeah, that was fascinating. So two things that decrease the valuation. If you built it and then the instructors, the people doing the study, had you disassemble it. Whether it was an Ikea box, or in some cases they used Lego sets. Even though, they'd have you build something with Legos, they'd have you value it, you'd value it very high. They'd have other groups, they'd build it, take it apart, and then have you value it. Even though you had assembled it at one point, and even though in the case of Legos, it's made to be reassembled and unassembled and reassembled, that's part of the magic.
Right.
They still valued it lower if it was dismantled. Then the other piece of it was if they stopped them before they completed it. So they let them get halfway through building the Ikea box, halfway through building their Lego set, and said, "All right, we're going to stop it here, and let's go through our evaluation process." Yeah, if I had to take it apart, if I didn't complete it, didn't feel that strongly about it.
So, but before we move on to the upside, that reminds me of another study that was done on getting help from people. That and I don't remember exactly how they measured it, but basically the finding was that if I asked you for help and you spent some time giving me advice or helping me with a project, your stock in me, you found my stock went up. I was seen as more important or valuable to you than if I hadn't asked for help. So you've got somebody standing off to the side who does everything on their own and they're good to go. That person didn't have as much value in your eyes as me, who you had invested in and spent time in. And I guess it's a little bit of a personal IKEA effect. And I wonder, I don't think the study went there, but what would have happened if I hadn't taken your advice, right? If I had disassembled all that time you spent with me, right? It came up with a client recently that they were working really hard on trying to listen better to the office, and the office had some processes that they wanted to make sure were done, et cetera, et cetera. And this person was doing it so religiously. They really wanted to make sure they were following this new process. And my question to them was, what could you do to make sure the office knows that you're doing that? And so there was the opportunity to go back and say, hey, let me check with you guys. Could you help me? Is this right? Did I do this the right way? And that's just a very simple way of communicating to the other side. I really am listening. I really am taking seriously your input, and I really, want this to work out. And, what happened. I mean, the stock went up for both sides. So that's making me think that there's lots of implications for seeing the IKEA effect at work, even on things that you don't, make, but things that you just help with, that you participate in.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah.
anyway.
No, I think it's a great point. Yeah, because we'll work with somebody and they don't do anything that we talk about. Yeah, we tend to not see them in a favorable light.
Yep.
And think of all the terms we had. They're hard headed. They're cool headed. They're dug in. They're unmovable. They're
uncoachable.
Uncoachable. Yeah, all this stuff that we assign to that.
Yeah, great stuff.
But yeah, when they're working with us, they're trying not all of our ideas, but just a few.
Yeah.
That's a good guy. That's somebody I can work with right there. That guy's got potential.
All right. So you say there are some upsides to the IKEA effect in the workplace.
So yeah, thinking about it from the standpoint of customers and team members, from the team member standpoint, for years we've worked with organizations, and one of the things that we did was a continuous improvement team.
Yep.
Where we got a cross-functional group of employees. Here's a problem. Analyze the problem. Collect some data, analyze it, figure out some ideas. Let's figure out a recommendation, and then let's go execute it.
Yep.
And so it goes back to the idea that people don't oppose their own ideas. And oftentimes these teams come up with stuff that the manager probably was thinking about. And in some cases, it's a completely new idea that the leadership wasn't thinking about. And so the goal is to have first followers, to have supporters of the idea in the room, in the meeting after the meeting.
Uh-huh.
So, we gather the team together and go, hey, the guys have come up with this great idea. We're going to do it, and I need your support. And, here's the steps and all that. And then the manager leaves the room, and then there's the meeting after the meeting. Well, this is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. I don't know where they come up with this stuff. And now you've got a cohort in the room who was part of the creation of it, and they can fight for the idea.
Yep.
You make a good point. We actually looked at that, and this is why it wasn't feasible and why we decided to go this route. And so your idea, has a champion in the room when you leave the room, because they helped build it, they helped create it, and therefore we'll find ways to help it move forward.
If I get a chance to weigh in, I'm more likely to buy in.
Yep. Ooh,
Love
nice.
it.
Yeah, that's a bumper sticker right there. That could be a t-shirt.
Already got it.
Yeah, it's very nice.
We'll sell those on the Hip Socket website. Sure. Yeah.
Oh, we're going with merch. Yeah. We got a merch store. I love this.
Oh, and welcome to our many new listeners from our Jane Austen sarcasm podcast that for some reason went viral. We're going to work on that.
Yeah. We're pretty sure it wasn't us. It was Jane Austen.
Yeah, we're pretty certain.
We've studied it. That's what happened. So think about this in terms of the customer. We've already talked about instant cake mixes, Build-A-Bear, Haycations. I had a store, and at one point, and this was a dealership, and they got the customer involved in appraising their trade-in vehicle.
Oh, that's genius.
So they had an iPad, and on the iPad was the software that the store used.
Yep.
The checklist of things to look at when you appraise a car. So they would give the iPad to the customer. The customer and the salesperson would go out, look at the car, and they'd walk around the car, and they'd go, the windshield looks fantastic. Click, gets a check mark. Oh, the back glass has got a crack in it. Make a note there.
Yep.
Some door dings. Tires at 50%. Right. And so the customer would push all the buttons on the iPad, and at the end, they'd hit the button to complete the appraisal, and then boom, number would pop up.
Yep. I believe that number.
Yeah, much more acceptance for that number because I built it.
Yep.
I made that number happen. And in all reality, these are all the things that we had to go explain to the customer if they didn't participate.
Yeah.
We met with resistance. So the number was going to be the same either way. the reality was, yeah, when I come back to you and go, hey, did you know there was a crack in your windshield? Did you know that your tires were at 50%? Did you know there were some door dings? Well, yeah, and I'm gonna start to push back.
You're just devaluing my trade-in.
Yeah, you're just trying to steal it. It's and because it's mine, I think it's worth more anyway because it's mine.
Right.
I've always garage kept it. I never parked it under a tree. Uh, it only got oil, from France, from vineyards in France. So,
well, it's the IKEA effect, right? I mean, they're invested in their product. Yeah.
So yeah, getting the customer involved, letting them help build it, let them participate in it, has tremendous value for your organization.
Very clever.
Lowers resistance, increases trust.
Yep.
Very cool. All right. So
That's
the last thing I'll share with you on this topic is this horrifying. It wasn't in this report, but I was reading another report because I have no life, and this one was talking about daughters and dating.
I have some of those.
Yes, you got at least two as of this recording.
No, we're done. We're done.
Okay. They studied. All right, so if you go on a date, like your daughter goes on a date with somebody who's fairly well off, fairly well to do, pick them up in a nice car, take them to a nice restaurant. Everything is top of the line, nice, right? Mm-hmm. This is a person of some means, right? That is a good date. They go on a date with the next guy, and they've got the date. Right before the date, the guy calls and says, hey, listen, I don't have any money, but I make money by playing a guitar on the street corner. Would you want to go with me and do some busking?
Yeah.
And so they go to the street corner and he plays the guitar and she shakes the cup and they make enough money and they go out to dinner.
I see where this is going.
Oh yeah. Terrifying. The horror. Right. So when they look at, which two dates were the most interesting, engaging, which one did they value more? The one where they helped build the date, when they participated in the fundraising and helped make it all happen.
Right.
To value that more than the date where everything was provided for you with no investment.
Yeah, I buy that.
And so so when the daughter comes home and goes, yeah, I'm going to leave home and run away with the out of work musician. Well, what about Tommy, who's studying finance and has the in-ground pool and the cars? What about, I like Tommy, this guy, I've invested in that.
We're invested now. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know what fathers can do with this information, except lay awake at night and sweat.
Yeah. It's, I guess I'm going to really avoid farming kids too. Why don't you come out and weed with me?
No. You need somebody who's going to take you to the movies. Yeah, already done movies. They're just completed and showing in the theater. Yeah.
Oh man. All right. Well, so some actually really practical things here around not just dating, but what you do with your employees. I know you and I have been doing some workshops recently talking about creating a scoreboard for a department or for a business. Get your people involved in creating that scoreboard, and guess what? There's going to be an increase in buy-in. And then I hadn't even thought about the idea of getting your customers involved with just some transparency about going through the process and having them involved in the steps, that there's more buy-in there. So lots of good stuff here where what we do becomes more valuable just because we're involved in the creation of it. It makes tons of sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in the current environment where the pace of change is accelerating, how do I increase my ability to make rapid changes? And applying this concept of labor leads to love, internally or externally, it could be one of the breakthrough tools in your toolbox.
I love it. Well, I hope everybody was listening and You know who's really invested in our podcast? He's created countless voiceover intros and outros, and it definitely was a labor of love because we didn't pay him a dime. And he's pointed that out to us several times, is Mr. John Wolf.
He does bring that up.
It's quite a bit.
Luckily, we're immune to it. Take it away, Mr. Wolf.
So go ahead and tweet that, or share it any other way you want. As always, there are no rights reserved, no trademarks, no copyrights. Share it if you want to. And join us next time on It Doesn't Take a Genius.
That's good enough.